Salvete discipuli, and welcome to our next lesson on relative pronouns. In this lesson, we're going to be focusing on how we actually determine what form of the relative pronoun to use: who, whose, whom, or which. It all begins by knowing what the antecedent is. So in this lesson, we will focus on being able to define the term antecedent and making sure that we can know what the antecedent is of a pronoun in a sentence. So as I said, knowing how to use who, whose, or whom begins by knowing the antecedent of the pronoun. But what is an antecedent? The word itself is from Latin, the preposition ante, which means before, and its root, the verb cedo, cedere, cesi, cessum, to go. So literally, an antecedent has to come before the pronoun. So when we are attempting to determine what the antecedent is of a pronoun, we have to look before it. Let's take a look at this sentence, which already contains a relative clause. The man to whom I gave the money was very poor. What is the antecedent of whom? If you believe that the antecedent of whom is the man, you are correct. You have found an antecedent. What is the antecedent in this sentence? I decided to take Latin because I love the culture of the Romans, whom we are going to study in class. Remember, we're looking for the antecedent of whom. Did you say that the Romans is the antecedent of whom? If so, you are correct. I know it's the antecedent because that's who we're studying in class. Now let's find the antecedent of the relative pronoun in this sentence. The young woman wearing the blue skirt is the one whose mother recently died. Did you say that the antecedent of whose is young woman? If so, you are correct. Now let's look at this longer sentence. The puppies which we saw in the window of the pet store were very playful and cute. I really wanted to buy the one which was rolling on its belly and yipping at me through the window. We're going to see if we can identify the antecedent of which in the first sentence, the puppies which we saw in the window, and also the antecedent of which in the second sentence. So in the first sentence, I believe that the antecedent of which is puppies, because if I say that it is the puppies that we saw in the window of the pet store, we saw puppies, then that makes a lot of sense. So puppies is the antecedent, plus it's the only word that comes in front of the first word, which. The occurrence of which in the second sentence has more than just one noun in front of it that we have to consider. We've got I and one. One itself is really a pronoun. What is one referring to? Well, it's actually referring to the one puppy that I saw, and that is the one which was rolling on its belly. So the antecedent of which is one in the second part of the sentence. Find the antecedents, there are two, in this sentence. We're looking for the antecedents of whom and which. If you said the antecedent of whom is person, congratulations, you are correct. And the antecedent of which is practice. Find the antecedent of the relative pronoun who in this sentence. Did you say that the relative pronoun's antecedent is boy? If so, you are correct. What is the antecedent of whose in the sentence, "The girl whose parents were killed in a car accident is moving to Detroit to live with her grandparents"? If you said girl, congratulations, you got it right again. The boy and girl whom we teased on the playground are now the most successful people in television. What's the antecedent of whom in this sentence? I hope you identified both boy and girl as the antecedent of whom, because that's the correct answer. So, Mrs. Johnson, I have a question. I get what an antecedent is, but what I don't understand is what kind of information is that going to tell me about the relative pronoun? That's a great question. Thanks for asking. The antecedent is going to tell us the specific gender of the pronoun and whether the pronoun should be singular or plural. In English, it will help us to decide whether to use who or which, and in Latin, it will help us to decide which one of the 30 pronouns we need to use.